friends, it is Tuesday, March 7th. We just finished our Board of Supervisors meeting. We started at 9 a.m. and finished at about 1:48 p.m. So it was a really long meeting, a lot of really good discussion, I think, between my colleagues. Some discussion not as productive as others, but we did have a fairly long call to the audience, about 25 people if memory serves. And so, 25 times 3, that's, a lot of the bulk of our meeting was taken up by the call to the audience, but I encourage people to come and participate. And I would love to hear from more of you at the call. So I want to thank Maria Bonamia from the clerk of the board's office for reading our land acknowledgement. We appreciate you and thank you so much for taking time to do that. We had the Proclamation Public Defense Day, which Dean Brault and his team came and accepted, so I want to thank them for doing that. We accepted the opioid settlement, and so a lot more details are going to come about that, and I can't even really reveal the amount yet but it will be significant, and 100% of those dollars has to go towards opioid treatment prevention. And I think it's going to be a really wonderful addition to the services that we can provide here in the county, and also much needed. We have people that are really struggling with substance abuse issues, and we really want to prevent our young people from going, from experimenting with these kind of things. So I'm hoping that this will be a comprehensive program. Thank you to City of Tucson Administrator Mike Ortega, and to our liaison, who is half city, half county employee, Mari Vasquez, for coming down and talking to the board and also the community to let them know what the City of Tucson is doing and how we are working together as a region to provide supports for homeless, unhoused populations, prevention programs, and our substance abuse issues that we're having in our community. I think it was very clear that fentanyl is a concern all by itself, because people said, well, let's talk about some of the other drugs, and really the overwhelming number of people that are struggling right now or overdosing are with fentanyl. And so the 4 pillars that they're going to be talking about in more detail as they come back to do presentations going to be cleanup, housing first, shelter, mental health, drug addiction enforcement, justice systems, all of those. And the categories are encampment protocol, housing and shelter, justice services, and fentanyl. And so what's going to be happening is every month the City of Tucson has been getting updates about what is happening in the City of Tucson. And we've been very much siloed with Pima County doing their thing and the city doing their thing. So what's going to happen on the 21st is the Board of Supervisors is actually going to hear a presentation that is going to be taking place later that day at the City of Tucson Mayor and Council meeting. And so I think that getting on the same page and having our staff and the city, so Pima County and the city doing collaborating on presentations and services is going to really go a long way in making sure we're informing our community and saying it more than once on what we are doing, what we need to do more of, and what we tried and maybe weren't as successful at. I think our community would appreciate that insight into, we shouldn't just be talking about the successes. We should talk about what we've tried and what isn't working and why we're not doing certain things. We had the Economic Development Strategic Plan come forward, and there was a lot of discussion back and forth, and that item has been postponed until April 18th. One of the things that I brought forward is I want to understand how our economic development priorities, how they interface with our environmental concerns and our water concerns. And so making sure that we're talking about that. Supervisor Hines added that he really wanted our energy to be clean and renewable, and we all agreed to that, to add that into the plan. And that was actually 5-0. We didn't hear, there wasn't a vote, but there was no objection. And so when that comes back on April 18th, some of those, that criteria will be there. One of the other pieces that we'd asked for is for small and medium businesses, when you're talking about prioritizing them, where is the equity in where those businesses and the services that are going to be targeted? How are we going to target supports for different people that want to start businesses and maybe don't have all of the experience in doing it, how are we going to provide those supports? We discussed the community bond program, and we cannot, the general consensus from legal, both our county attorney and outside legal counsel, was that we cannot run our own program. That the Pima County attorney stated that we legally cannot do that and have a county funded program, because the argument is that there's a gift of public funds. I think there are a few people in our community that say, well, maybe we could, and there's other cities that have done it, but other cities that have done it are using private funding. And so collaborating with a private funder to be able to offer the services is something we can absolutely do, but the big concern is using county funds to do that. So it's universally not advised. Even the outside legal opinion was saying that we could do it with an outside vendor or an outside nonprofit, but not something done in-house. So we did discuss and move forward with a recommendation, basically asking our county administrator to come up with some other options that might be able to address the concern that the community bond program would have, including keeping people that really they committed a crime or they're waiting for trial, but it's not something that they would be held for if they had funding. So they're bond eligible, but they don't have the funding to do it. I think that's where the concern is, and we want to try to keep our jail population as low as possible and keep people out of the prison system that really their biggest crime at that point is the fact that they don't have they're in jail because they don't have the funding. So we accepted a grant, $10 million in emergency rental assistance. What that's going to do is that's going to extend the county's ability to extend to provide emergency rental assistance through May, which I think is going to be very helpful. These are funds that the Arizona state could not expend, and so Pima County, because of our history and track record, are really eligible for some of these, and there may be more opportunities to collect funds that other municipalities in Arizona haven't been able to expend. So I think that that's good news. We accepted a grant from the Arizona, we didn't accept the grant. We extended it for a no-cost extension. The Arizona Department of Health Services, they're providing K-12 funding for students to get behavioral health and emotional well-being services. The implementation of the You're Not Alone campaign, which we heard at the Board of Health meeting and also was reinforced on communications by the Department of Health Services, that we're very concerned at the number of young people in our community that have contemplated or have attempted suicide. And so that's what that program is, the Not Alone campaign. What that's going to do is it's going to be a robust campaign including radio, TV, social media, and print ads. And it's also going to train 64 teachers and other youth service providers to provide wraparound services and supports for our K-12 staff and students. So I think that's going to be really great. We have our next meeting is on March 21st. And thus far for Love of Reading in February, I read to 37 schools and over 2,000 students, and it really is my favorite time of year. I'm still continuing to visit a couple more schools, and then I'm also going to be visiting schools for Cesar Chavez Week. And so I put this here to remind myself that it's, if you have the opportunity to go and speak in schools and talk about the importance of Cesar Chavez, organizing, and, just his incredible contribution, him, Dolores Huerta, and the United Farm Workers Movement, and what they were able to do to support the workers. I think it would be really great, and I'm very excited to be able to do that. We do have the Summer Youth Resource Fair. Ta-da! That is coming up this Saturday. And so it'll be Saturday at the 320 North Commerce Park Loop from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. We are going to have free food. Thank you, Brother Johns. We're going to have summer youth, like the jobs program is going to be enrolling there. Family resources, vaccines, Ready, Set, Rec, all kinds of food and music, and 40 resource vendors, a ton of giveaways. PEEPS, the preschool scholarship program, will be there, educational resources, and so much more. And so we hope you'll come by and say hi. We'll be staffing a table there, and we're one of the sponsors. And then the other event is the Cesar Chavez March and Resource Fair. And so that's going to take place on Saturday, March 18th. We're going to start at Pueblo High School at 9 a.m. and march to Rudy Garcia Park, and there we'll have some resources and speakers. And so I hope to see you at one of those or both of those. Thank you so much for paying attention to Pima County Politics. Stay safe, friends.